Yesterday, right after I came off of the live, I got the news that one of our clients was approved for VAWA. And I want to go through telling you what it was like, what the journey of my client was like, because I think it will be helpful to you if you're going through the same situation to be able to get the help you need, the right help you need to get an approval and to get to permanent residence. Now, this client, oh, thanks so much. Love your lipstick. It's Sephora. So this client here came to me 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago, and they were in a very, very dire situation. So this was the stepchild of a US citizen. So at the time, he was a minor, and his parent was also being mistreated um, by the US citizen, and the parent was the spouse of the US citizen. Um, this child, though, had their own independent path to the VAWA process because the mistreatment extended to them as well. So the this child was being verbally mistreated, emotionally mistreated, and as a result of that, they could apply independently. So, in addition to the parent obtaining VAWA and the green card, the child doesn't have to wait, did not have to wait for the parent to be approved, because usually with the VAWA process, the child has to first wait for the parent to be approved, and then they can get the benefits of VAWA, and that can take up to 3 years right now. Hopefully they'll narrow down the processing times, but the entire process is taking 3 years. And so in this case, to ensure that the stepchild was also taken care of while their process was moving forward, we were able to apply for VAWA independently. And as a result of that, 6 months in, they got the work permit, including the stepchild. The stepchild could apply. So remember, stepchild, they're not biologically related. But since the parent got married to the US citizen before the child was 18, they qualify as a stepchild of a US citizen, which means that they can apply for VAWA the same way as a child of a US citizen would apply for VAWA. And so that's what enabled them. So in this process of showing you how a spouse of a US citizen or permanent resident can qualify for VAWA, I'm showing you here that stepchildren can also qualify for VAWA as well. You don't need to be biologically, you just have to qualify as a stepchild under immigration law. And I just explained to you under immigration law the definition of a stepchild. So to be the stepchild of a US citizen for immigration purposes, the parent of the stepchild would have had to marry the citizen or resident before that child turned 18. And and so now, once we were able to do the individual filing, they got their own work permit, they got their own social security number, they got their own travel document. And throughout the time, so one thing, right now it's really backed up. There was a time VAWA was approved in 6 months, but as with everything now, we have to be waiting. The good thing about this, though, is that they are issuing work permits that allow my clients to be secure, to be reassured, to move forward with their lives, to heal, to get out of the bad situation they're in, and build their lives. So by the time they get the green card, guess what? They are already good to go. They're already um, settled in their lives. They're already moving forward in their lives at that point. It's just that the green card helps them to continue that process. So in this case, my client, even with the approval now, they are still way ahead right now because of that work permit, because of the Social Security. The green card enables them to continue moving in this direction. So that's the good thing about this process. That was the reason why it was very important for my client as a stepchild to apply along independently of their parents, because it gave them that advantage of getting the work permit, getting the travel document. And it wasn't all nerves along the way. My clients traveled internationally, they worked, they lived their lives, from the point I met them, uh, including the stepchild, to the point where now they're approved. It was a huge difference. It was a time of hurt, a time of sadness, a time of insecurity and pain at the time. And then going forward, once they were able to work, once they were able to show that they have permission to be here, it was a miraculous transformation. Just so relaxed, so at peace, so happy. And you could see it in their smile. You could see it in you see it in their eyes, see it in the way that they conducted themselves. And they have been making good progress in life. So the getting the green card now after their approval is just going to help them to continue what they have been able to build in the past few years that we have been going with them and applying for the VAWA and the green card. So, that is an example of the journey from being the stepchild of a US citizen who is mistreated to applying independently in a very confidential process. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and answer questions. So go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I can answer those questions for you. Okay, can J1 get any visa? So it depends on if you qualify for that. Does being pregnant while going through filing affect the immigration process? It could actually be helpful. It just depends. It depends here. No, if you're the derivative on an application, you will not. A derivative can't have a derivative. Derivative is where you're a dependent applying along with a parent or a spouse. So a derivative can't have a derivative. So in this case, that could very well affect it in that your baby wouldn't get the same status as you. However, if you're going through a marriage-based process, that can be helpful in that if that child is the shared child of your spouse, then it means that you can build upon the bona fides of the marriage that you have. Can you apply for a work permit while waiting on I-130 to be approved? Not based on the I-130. You have to have an I-485 adjustment of status application pending. How long does the T status process take? So about it could go anywhere from 6 months to 18 months on average. I'm seeing 12 months. What type of relief can someone who crossed the border legally and marry a green card holder who's abusive, then you qualify for VAWA. And that means that you get the ability to stay here in the US and apply for adjustment of status and your green card. Now, because you're the spouse of a green card holder, it's going to come in stages. So that means first you're going to file the petition, you're going to wait for your your name basically to go to the top of the wait list. That's how I like to refer to it. But you're gonna wait for your priority date to become current. And then after that, it's going to allow you, once it's current, you can apply for adjustment of status and the work permit. So that's how this is different from being the spouse of a US citizen. But nevertheless, throughout this entire process, you are allowed to stay here and apply for the green card and protection here. I missed my interview because my wife didn't want to go with me. What's next? Schedule an appointment. Let's talk, because that's usually a sign that something is not right. And I want to find out those facts to determine whether you qualify to still apply on your own. All right. Hi there. Can you tell how long the SIJS process takes? So this is a multi-step process. First, you have to get a predicate order, and that's going to depend on the process of the court. It could, if sometimes if there's an emergency hearing that's pushed through, you could get it shorter, but you should plan for about 6 months. And then after that, the SIJS is the petition process is taking a while. So you could be looking at a minimum of a year and a half for the SIJS process. But once it's approved, they do put you into deferred action and allow you to get the work permit and social security number while you go through the adjustment of while the child waits to become current on the adjustment of status application. So it's a process. You're the most knowledgeable IG lawyer on the land. I'm waiting on VAWA filed with your office. Oh, well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. VAWA I-131 is approved. What is next? The I-131 means that you have your travel document. So just make sure, run it by your lawyer, make sure it's safe to travel outside of the US. Now, if your I-131 is approved, it means that you could very well get your next approval for the work permit, because usually sometimes it comes together. It just depends if you applied for them together. All right. My son and I had different receipt numbers. I got my green card since 2021. My son is still waiting, so it's probably because they're processing them separately. I don't know the facts, so I need more to be able to understand what's going on. Definitely contact, if you have an attorney, talk to your attorney or contact the USCIS. Does an I-693 from NBC signal the interview might be waived? What are your observations? Yes. So whenever I get an RFE for only the medical, it's a hint. They can always change their minds, or they could always schedule an interview, of course, but it's a big hint that they might waive it. They just want the medical to be able to make the decision. So how accurate is the processing time online? How can timeline reverse to 4 years behind? In 2020, it was showing they're at 2017. Now they're showing 2015 for F1 family category. So unfortunately, yes, this has happened, and it has happened here. It's called retrogression. And it means that, when they have maxed out the number of visa numbers that have been handed out, it goes back. It can go back in time. So it's very frustrating, and that's what's happening. I've also noticed that across the employment base, which is really crappy because it was current on employment base. Now it's behind on employment based green cards as well. So unfortunately, that's what we're experiencing now. And yes, it can happen. VAWA 131 is approved on work permit is approved too. What's the next step? So I answered that. Okay, so I'm seeing here. So this is in Spanish, but I'm reading it anyway. But I believe the concern here is that you're concerned about receiving um, like a charity benefits, which may amount to public, like a public benefit, and you're wondering if it's considered a public charge. And when you're getting from, and this I don't know because this is in Spanish. You'd have to call the office, of course, to be able to. We do have Spanish speakers in the office. I can read it. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying in English, but whenever you receive anything in a charity, a private charity, it is not considered public benefit, and it's not going to subject you to a public charge. Now, I don't know in this case. I'm seeing here that this is a charity called Cara Para. So I'm not sure what kind of charity it is, and if it is somehow linked to any kind of public benefits in the state, or if it's tasked with any kind of distribution of public benefits. So that's where we would have to understand that. But generally, if you are getting donations or help or benefits from a private charity, it's not going to subject you to the public charge rule. VAWA case after fingerprint, how long will get the work permit and travel document? So you can count 8 to 12 months. How long does VAWA take to be approved? So the entire VAWA process is about 2.5 to 3 years. However, you do get the benefits of the work permit and travel document, and that tends to give you a head start on life in the US while you wait for the entire process to be completed. How long it takes for the I-130 to approve in New York is the I-130 in New York, it's in general, right? You have service centers that process the I-130, but right now I'm seeing 9 to 12 months, maybe shorter, may even be longer, but 9 to 12 months is the average time I'm seeing. It's been 30 months since I filed VAWA. In only say correspondence was received and USCIS is reviewing. So you should be getting a decision soon then. My case, 1 week for decision on it, says this morning taking longer than, which that's the latest pattern. So you have the app that's saying that, 1 week till a decision, and then they switch it to it's taking longer than processing times. I'm seeing this on average. So I have learned to abide by my own internal, my knowledge of what the processing times are based on my experience here. So unfortunately, that app, I have not been sold yet on it. It is not very, reliable, and because of that, it can be misleading. Am I a citizen? I filed my I-130, but it keeps it keeping too long. How can I make it faster? So you're a citizen and you have filed an I-130, it's taking long. If you want to expedite it, you can call and request an expedite, but you have to meet certain criteria, like have an emergency or, show a mistake on the part of the USCIS to get them to move it faster. Would you advise one to travel with VAWA advance parole? It depends. I went with my clients, I speak to them on an individual basis to determine whether it's safe for them to travel. I advise them of the risk. The risk is not zero, but the risk can be higher or lower based on your, background. My fiance is from Afghanistan, or what he needs to come to the US. So it's going to depend on now a visa or a sponsorship. So it's going to depend on how they qualify. There's what if you are a US citizen, then one thing you can consider is a fiance visa, and that can enable them to come through that. It's about 1.5 to 2 years. I had Afghan parole interview in Islamabad, um, but case returned back to USCIS. Any idea? So, whenever the case is returned to the USCIS, there may be an administrative processing. There may be a problem there. So you should check with your attorney or check with them on the reason. All right. How many months? What are documents needed to file for a green card through T status? So the adjustment of status application is definitely going to be what you need here, and whatever other documents you need is going to depend on your individual case. You can always give us a call, schedule an appointment. We do help clients to get through adjustment of status with this T status. How many months should I wait to see prima facie come in? So I would say 3 to 6 months. Hi there. Good afternoon. All right. If you are 20 years of age, can you apply for citizenship if you don't register for selective service? Can this deny my citizenship? Now, usually you have to apply for selective service between the ages, I believe you still have time, the ages of 18 to 26 or 25. So you may still have time to meet that requirement. So make sure you go ahead and fulfill that requirement. However, if somehow it may be too late, then there are ways to show an explanation that it possibly wasn't a willful avoidance of the selective service. So that may be a way to get around it. But I'd have to hear what's going on there, and you still might be within the age to be able to register. Is getting a travel doc after the T status a new benefit? So it's not necessarily a new benefit, but in the policy manual, they made very clear that that the travel document is allowed, right? Because it has been one of those touchy areas where you can apply for it, but there are a lot of immigrants that are worried about leaving the country and the repercussions of that. So they have made very clear that the travel, it is permitted for someone with T status to travel as long as they get the travel document, they apply for it. Am I required to do an interview if I applied for I-360? So the I-360 is not interview. The USCIS always reserves the right to schedule an interview. However, they don't usually do it for the stage where they're deciding on the I-360. Sometimes, right now, I'm seeing they're waiving that, but sometimes they may ask for an interview to get the green card after you get approved for the I-360. I have DACA and I'm married to a citizen. How can I get a green card? So if you're married to a citizen, you have DACA, it's telling me though that there may be an issue with your entry, and your options are going to depend on the facts here. You may have to look at other options. If you don't want to leave the country, you may have to look at other options. Hey, how can your child file for you? So when they turn 21, they can file the documentation for you. Can I get my working permit and documents if I get a small misdemeanor charge? Yes, it's possible. Yeah, as long as it's not going to affect your admissibility. If someone files for VAWA when she's going to get fingerprint notice, I would say at around the 2 month mark, 1 to 2 months. They made it easier for T status holders to travel recently. I think I'm missing out that part. So yeah, so I'm not sure what you're missing, but yeah, they have made it clear that T status holders can apply for their travel document in the policy manual. Are you taking the cases which already filed before, like VAWA? I'm not hearing anything from them yet. So whether or not I take the case really comes down to whether I determine you qualify. So this is where the consultation is going to be very important. How long it takes for I-485 to be approved and I-360 in New York. So I would say the entire process from beginning to end right now could become shorter in the future, but right now it's 3 years. But you do get your work permit, travel document in that time. Filed marriage, no VAWA. My husband had sponsored my son. Will the application get terminated? So they are usually individual, independent applications, and it's going to depend on what their findings are. So if don't they are not sold on the bona fides of the marriage, and that can have an implication on your son's petition, because if your marriage isn't bona fide, it means that they could look at the relationship between your son and your spouse as not being a valid relationship either, since the son is a stepson. So it's going to, you applied for VAWA, and a part of VAWA is you have to show bona fide. So it may or may not affect the son's petition. It just depends on how that reflects on the son. And then if you get a divorce too. So there are a number, this is more complicated, and it definitely is going to depend on a lot of facts here. But the the child's I have seen the child's application get denied as a result of. Oh, all right. Can you hear me on? Hi there. Can you hear me on Instagram? Can someone confirm? I just got interrupted, and I want to make sure you can still hear me on Instagram. So it's going to all depend really on what the facts are in your case. Because I have seen where oh, thanks so much, Sophia. Thanks so much, Juice 21. So I have seen where the child's application was denied because they weren't sold on the bona fides of the marriage base. But here with the VAWA, it doesn't change the fact that you were still in a bona fide marriage. So they may still push through the application for the son. And then keep in mind, when you have an abusive spouse, they may not want to move forward with the application themselves, and they may cancel that application. So it's really the facts here. It's all dependent on the facts. What happens, or what should I do if I mailed my I-485 application but haven't got notice of receipt? So it may take a few weeks, I'd say 2 to 4 weeks. And then, you would have to see. This is where I say definitely make sure you're tracking your application because you want to make sure that you can see if it was delivered. You'll see the officer that signed off on the application, and you would be able to confirm it's there. And that can give you some reassurance to wait for a little bit. Now, sometimes when you see it going for a long period of time, it may be bad too, in that you might get the whole package back and they may reject it. And then you have to make a correction. They'll tell you what to correct, and then you have to resubmit it. So it just depends on, what's going on. Sometimes they're backed up, they're really busy too. How long does it take to get the green card when coming with K1 and spouse is a citizen? So I'd say less than a year once you do it properly. How long after medical you're going to receive any other documents from immigration? So I would say it could be anywhere from a month to 3 months to get usually, either another a request for an interview or a decision. Can I travel with travel documents without problems at the border? Yeah, it's no, this is where I don't just tell people straight up that, um, yes, they can qualify. I have to know your background to understand the risk and be able to explain the risk to you. I knew traveling internationally with T status disqualifies you unless it's a serious matter and re-entry is not guaranteed. So I was wondering if that has lessened. So that is also one of the changes here is that they are going to consider when you leave the country. And this isn't a process when you're applying for the T status, not after you've gotten the T status. Of course, getting the T status, you have to leave with a travel document. But before, after the incident of trafficking that you've been a victim of, you should not, if you leave the country, they're going to assume, okay, you're disqualified. What they're saying now here is that they're going to look more closely at the facts to determine whether um, whether there were circumstances that could still qualify you for T status holder. For example, were you re-victimized? And keep in mind here, though, that they're also saying that after re-entry, you don't have to show that you were subjected to continued victimization. So that's one of the things that they're now clarifying in the policy manual. So yeah, that is good news in that just leaving after maybe an incident of trafficking may not automatically disqualify you here. So, um, yeah. Election season is looming up on us. Can you tell me what's at stake here? So, yeah, so what's at stake is we have two candidates. We have Biden, and Biden has proposed some tough immigration policies that I don't necessarily agree with. However, I think he's trying to play up to the pressures that are on him because the climate in this country right now is that they need to control the border and get border security. They need to make sure that they have strong border security, which I am not against border security, of course, but we have to make sure that we can have policies in place that are fair and just to immigrants that qualify to be here, who need to be here to be safe, and that they shouldn't be, uh, you know, affected by tough policies, or they shouldn't suffer as a result of tough policies. Then, on the other hand, we have a candidate, Trump. We all know him. We know what he's done and what he was working towards doing. And so we know that when he comes in, he's coming in with a vengeance and he's going to get a lot worse. He said it. He has said it straight up. And I've said this before, but he said it straight up. He plans to have camps where he just rounds up immigrants and put them in the camp to go through deportation. So mass deportations, uh, possibly send ICE out to do raids. That was something that was happening during the Trump administration before, where now they have a deportation priority that they have to abide by. So Trump is going to, if you don't have your papers, you are at risk, and it's a blanket policy that he's going to have across the board. So that's what's at stake here when it comes to immigration. There's a lot on the line, and it's very serious. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here and I'm working, me and my team are working really hard to reach out to as many immigrants as possible to let you know about your options so that you don't have to deal with the level of fear if that were to happen. Now, the best thing we can do, of course, as citizens here is to vote for the policies that you want to support. If you want policies that are going to protect you, protect your friends, your family members, your co-workers, your employees, then you have to make sure that you vote um, for the right side. And in this case, it's going to be Biden, right? If you're going to vote against anti-immigrant injustices, that will no doubt take place here. In addition to that, keep in mind that we've seen it before. You know, we had the Muslim ban, we had bans from other countries. That's going to come back, and it's probably going to be 10 times worse to get a visa to come into the country. And you can look at his policies yourself. At Trump's policies, he has posted it. He's very straight up with it. He's not hiding anything. You know, he is going to go ahead and have people put up bond to get their visa. So you have to have a lot of money, thousands of dollars, just to be able to visit the United States. You have to put up that money. So it is very scary, the possibility with right now under the current Biden administration. You know, we're seeing where he wants to propose policies that are definitely going to affect asylum seekers. However, in the same breath, I am seeing policy changes that are meant to also help immigrants who are here already, who need status. And if you're listening now, you're a citizen, and you understand the plight of immigrants here. First of all, we immigrants here, they're not sitting here and doing nothing. Immigrants are working hard for this country. They're working hard for industries. They're working to fill a gap here where people who are not qualified, who can't do the work, immigrants are here and they're doing the work. A vast majority of immigrants are here to work hard, just like my grandparents came here to work hard. My parents came here to work hard and build a pathway for me. Um, they are doing the same thing for themselves and their future generation. So, you know, having policies in place to legalize them so that they can actually partake in the society as individuals who have legal status, who can access resources, access more opportunities, avoid being taken advantage of here, is going to be beneficial for all of us. And that discourse, and you're all here, you're all my people, so you're with me on this, right? So I am basically preaching to the choir. um, but all that rhetoric that we hear about they're taking away jobs and they're not working, they're committing crimes, that is really false information meant to demonize people. In the same breath, those same people who are spreading that kind of rhetoric are the same people that are taking advantage and partaking in the full benefits that these immigrants provide to them through their work. So that's what's at stake. That's very much what's at stake. So keep that in mind. You know, keep that in mind. All right. How long they normally take to give you an interview for the green card after you get your work permit? So it's going to depend on the kind of case. Sophia, can you retype your question? I may have missed it, but I didn't see it. Um, Myself, my husband are on the same visa. I've been here for more than 6 months. Will my husband be allowed in at the point of entry in the US? It depends on whether he qualifies. If he has his visa, he should. But what is it that you're nervous about? And why wouldn't he be admitted in? This is where the consultation is going to be very important. Please, if someone got prima facie, it wasn't renewed, and the case will be 2 years this month, is it something to worry about? And secondly, the case was also transferred to another center. So I just got an email last night about that about so in the email, the USCIS explained that they have a new service center in Nebraska, and right now they're trying to adjust to having two service centers process VAWA cases. And so we were getting a lot of transfer notices saying when we file it with Nebraska, it's transferred to Vermont. And this creates a lot of anxiety. It's like, is that a good thing? Well, it has a lot to do with the workload that they're trying to manage. Now, this is not going to be happening anymore. As of April 1st, they have changed their process to allow all of the intake process to take place in Nebraska Service Center. Because before, because the Vermont Center, they have been doing this for many years. That's where the main officers are that do the training for humanitarian based benefits and where they also make the decisions. So, in the process of training, they would transfer the cases from Nebraska to Vermont for intake process to be able to process the information on the applications. They have changed their process to only do this and Nebraska. So we should not be seeing those transfer notices anymore, but it's an internal thing. They just want to inform you about what they're doing, that is being transferred between service centers. But those transfers should not be happening anymore. Now, the prima facie, you said the case prima facie was not renewed. If you didn't get a renewed prima facie, you need to get in touch with them. So here, as the attorney, we have a special email where we can email and we can let them know, hey, it's taking a little long. We haven't gotten the prima facie. And then we'll miraculously get the prima facie, again, a second copy. Sometimes it gets lost in the mail. So you want to just check with them to make sure. You'd have to do it in writing or speak to your attorney about getting in touch with them by email. But I wouldn't be worried if they gave you the first prima facie. Maybe just it got lost, or they may be taking a while to renew the. Sometimes it takes a month or two. They're behind to get to issue the renewed prima facie. So I think the best bet here would be to contact them and just let them know you never received the renewed prima facie, and they can possibly inform you of what's next. How long should I-130 take if applied since 2020? So you may be in a category that's taking a longer time, and they may not be prioritizing those I-130s the way they would for the marriage-based or family-based or employment, family-based I-130. So the marriage-based immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, those tend to be 9 to 12 months. But for other categories, I do notice those tend to go a little longer, so a year and a half to 2 years. Can I get a green card if I entered the US illegally and filed for asylum, but later got married to a US citizen? So if you marry a US citizen, you are going to have to show legal entry into the US to be able to get it through adjustment of status. So no, but if that U.S. Citizen is mistreating you, of course, there's VAWA, which does allow you to apply for adjustment of status, even though you may have entered the country without permission. All right. How long after your medical? So I answered that. Can I travel with travel document without problems at the border? Get advice about your risk. The risk is not zero, but it's generally that's what it's there for. How long does it take? to get a green card interview after married a U.S. citizen. So if you did it right, your application right, and they don't have any questions, you could be getting that green card in the mail. But I would say the average time I'm seeing for the interview, should they schedule an interview, is 8 months, and it's 10 to 12 months to get the green card. So we'll see. It just depends. And if you need help, give us a call. Now, that's going to be it for me, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow. Can a man get VAWA? Absolutely. Yes, they can. And we're getting it. So the step first of all, the client who's a stepchild is a male. We got another approval a few weeks ago, male. So yes, absolutely, 100% men get VAWA, and many of my clients are men. Okay, so her attorney has requested several, but no reply yet from them. So sometimes you don't get a reply, sometimes you just get it. But in this case, yes, it really is at their discretion to issue the prima facie. So, maybe you'd have to verify whether one has been issued. If I apply for TVs and approved, thereafter, can my child still file for me? Yes, so you'd still have the option to do it other ways. I don't know what your particular case is, but generally speaking, it's possible for a child to petition for you. All right. So thanks so much, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow. Now, if you want to talk to me or the attorney, as Attorney Bria, that I work very closely with, please go ahead, go to the link in the profile, schedule your appointment, and get on my schedule because it's filling up very fast. You'd be very surprised. 1 minute there's availability, and the next minute it's gone. So make sure you schedule your appointment. You can do it yourself, really easy, or you can call the office. Go to the link in the profile. You'll see the website. You can use the number there to call the office and schedule your appointment through our intake coordinators, who will be more than happy to help you there. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.